Hi everybody, and welcome to Kitchen Table Science with Miss Annie from Base Programs. It's May, and that means Oceanography Month at Base Programs. So we're going to start oceanography by talking about the layers of the ocean, and I'm going to challenge you that after you do this project, to go and research which animals live in what layer of the ocean and to do a little research about them. I'd love to know their habitat, what they eat, what layer they live in, what their life cycle is like. Draw a picture and share it with us. Make a video or just send us an email and share your research with me. I would love to know what you find out. But let's get started first and talk about the layers of the ocean. We are going to be doing 5 layers of the ocean today using items that you can find in your home. This is kitchen table science after all. And if that's too many layers for you to work with, I'm going to show you a little later in the video how to shorten this down to just do 3 layers if you don't have all of these items. So the first item you're going to need is a jar, a clear jar with a lid, the clear jar so that you can see all of the layers, and a lid so that it doesn't spill all over your house. You can see I'm just using an empty pickle jar because Miss Annie loves pickles. But so you're gonna need an empty jar with a lid. You're going to need a dark syrup. You could use Karo syrup if you have like clear Karo syrup in your house, but you would want to color it with a dark food coloring, maybe even a black or really a bunch of blue to get it nice and dark. I happen to have this all natural golden syrup that's pretty dark and pretty heavy. When I tried it earlier, I had agave syrup that worked great too. So whatever you have in your house, some kind of a syrup, honey would probably work. You could try that. It's maybe a little light. You might want to try to food color that, but this works great, this dark syrup that I have. So that we're going to use that. We're going to use a dish detergent, dish soap. I happen to have dish soap that's already colored blue, but the first time I made it, it was green. Whatever, use what you have. This I did actually add a little bit of food coloring to what I'm going to use to make it a little bit darker, because these first 2 layers, they don't get any sunlight. They're really dark. The next layer, we are just going to use plain tap water. So just get yourself some tap water. We are going to color this blue, but just a little bit lighter than what we've got here. We will need some vegetable oil. I am using canola oil, but you can use whatever you have, any kind of oil you want. And then the final layer, we are going to be using rubbing alcohol. Lots of us have rubbing alcohol in our house right now because we're all making our own hand sanitizers, which might be another science video, by the way. But we're all making homemade hand sanitizers because you can't find them in the store, and the rubbing alcohol is something you need for that. So we're going to use it. If you don't have this, you might want to do the 3-layer project later that I'll show you, and we wouldn't need this. A few other items you might need: some blue food coloring, a spoon. You'll see what I actually am going to use this to pour in a little bit later, and I'm going to use a funnel so that for some of this, so that the liquids do not combine together. But the first time I did it, I didn't have a funnel, but I was also using a smaller jar. So use what you got. That's the motto of kitchen table science. Use what you got. So we're gonna start off with the deepest and darkest layer of the ocean. It's called the abyss. The abyss. I would not want to go to the abyss. Lots of pressure down there. Not a lot of things live down in the abyss. Very dark, no sunlight. So we're going to use our darkest and our heaviest liquid right now. And we're just going to pour it into our jar. Get it in there. Use as much as you want. I'm going to try to fill the bottom. That's good. Be careful when you're pouring this because it gets sticky. All right, so this is the abyss. No sunlight, really dark. Not a lot of animals that live in the abyss. Let me know if you find one. The next layer above the abyss is going to be the trench. Do you remember from Finding Nemo? We swim over the trench, not through it. But I'm not entirely sure that jellyfish live in the trench. The trench is still really, really deep down in the ocean. Lots of pressure, no sunlight, and I'm not sure what can actually live in the trench. So this, for the trench, is our next heaviest liquid. This is going to be our dish soap. Remember, I added some food coloring to this to make it a little bit darker. I just poured it in a little jar, added some food coloring, and I actually used a chopstick to stir it up and make it pretty dark. And now I'm going to add that to our jar. I'm pouring nice and slowly so that it doesn't mix with my syrup. Nice and slowly. You can see it's still pretty dark in there. But if maybe I get real close, you can see the two different layers. Okay, so the next layer is going to be the midnight zone. And we are going to use water, and we are going to add some food coloring, a few drops at a time, just to get this slightly darker than our trench. So here we go. Maybe one more. The midnight zone is also really dark. There is not a lot of sunlight that gets to the midnight zone. But there are animals that live in the midnight zone, and these animals are really interesting because they make their own light. They make their own light. There's actually a few organisms that make their own light, and we're seeing one of these phenomenon right now at our beaches here in Oceanside. So maybe you can reply to this video and tell me if you know what is the phenomenon that's happening right now that everybody's going to see at the beaches, because that's what's also can happen in the midnight zone with the animals that live down there. Now I'm going to use the funnel at this point to add my water because I don't want my water to mix with my dish soap. So I'm going to put my funnel so that it's pouring onto the side of my bottle. And we're gonna add our water. All right. Now you still might not be seeing a bunch of layers, but you will at home when you get it up to the light, you can really see that there are layers happening. This next one you're gonna really see big time. This is the twilight zone. And the twilight zone still doesn't have a ton of light. It does get sunlight, but not a lot. We're going to be using the vegetable oil for this. I would color it blue if I could, but fun little fact, most food coloring is water-based, and oil and water don't mix. So if I tried to put the food coloring inside of the oil, I would just get little tiny drops. I wouldn't actually get blue oil. So we're going to let our twilight zone, we're gonna leave it this yellowish color, but that will actually help us find a good layer. So we're gonna take the oil and we're gonna slowly pour it in. Ooh. There we go. So I can think of some really big animals that might live in the twilight zone. Can you think of any animals that live in the twilight zone? A really big animal lives in the twilight zone. Now, the last and final layer of our ocean is the sunlight zone. There are so many animals that live in the twilight zone. Plants can live in the twilight or the sunlight zone because it gets sunlight. So my favorite animal actually lives in the sunlight zone. It's the sea turtle. I love sea turtles. But you can see I'm just going to very gently be adding my alcohol. I'm putting it on a spoon and I'm just tipping that spoon inside of my jar so that it does not get too far down. And we're gonna fill up the rest of our jar with the alcohol. And there we have it. All right, once you are done, you wanna put the top on. You can, if you have labels at home, you could label each different layer so that you can see it. I'm gonna see if I can bring it up nice and close. You can see all the different layers, the abyss, the trench, the midnight, the twilight, and the sunlight. Now, if you don't have all of these layers at home, or if you just wanna concentrate on the midnight, the twilight, and the sunlight zone, that's where most of your animals are going to be living anyway. So that would be very simple. You would start with your dish soap. Add your dish soap. Remember, this is the midnight zone and it is dark. So I'm going to add some food coloring to that to make it nice and dark. Oh yeah, there we go. Look at that. All right. Then I'm going to add my twilight zone. In this version is going to be my, nope, it's going to be my water. Water is heavier than oil, or more dense. So the oil is going to sit on top of the water. So I'm gonna add my water, and this is my twilight zone. And then above my twilight zone, I'm going to be adding my sunlight zone with my oil. And voila, we have 3 layers, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Easy peasy. See the 3 layers, the midnight, the twilight, and the sunlight. Now, go out and research what animals live in each layer. Some really good places for your research would be National Geographic Kids has some really cool videos and research projects about ocean life. YouTube might be a fun place to go and learn about some of your favorite animals. But don't forget to make me a video, draw me a picture, send us your research so we can share our bright ideas. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and remember that we miss you and we cannot wait to see you again at base programs. All right, everybody, see you later.